Hello students, welcome to AriserTalent. As you know, we are studying the chapter tissues in which we have discussed some important questions of NCERT. Now again we are here with another some important questions of NCERT. So here we go, give the answers, differentiate between meristematic and permanent tissue. So here we go with the answer. Meristematic tissues and permanent tissue. Okay. Meristematic tissues, if we talk about the meristematic tissues, then cells are small, isodiametric and undifferentiated. Cells of meristematic tissues are small, isodiametric and undifferentiated. Okay, and here in the permanent tissues, cells are cells of permanent tissues are large, okay, differentiated with different shapes. Okay, and these are generally found in these cells are generally found in tips of roots and stem, and these cells are generally found in all parts of the plants. Cells of these tissues are found in different parts of plants. Okay. Beside it, if we talk about the intercellular space, then there is no intercellular space in the meristematic tissues, in the cells of meristematic tissues. No intercellular space. No intercellular space between the cells. Okay, and here intercellular space are present. Okay, then it takes part in the growth. Meristematic tissues, it takes part in the growth of plant. Okay, and these permanent tissues take part in the photosynthesis, transportation and storage of material. Clear? Here we can mention that permanent tissue take part in photosynthesis, transportation and storage of material. etc. So what are the differences between meristematic tissues and permanent tissues? First of all, the cells of meristematic tissues are small, isodiametric and undifferentiated. Clear? But in the cells of permanent tissues, they are large in size, they are differentiated with different shapes. Okay, these cells are generally found in the tips of roots and stem. Even permanent tissues, cells of permanent tissues are found in the different parts of the plant. No intercellular spaces are there between the cells, but intercellular spaces are present in the cells of permanent tissue. Clear? It takes part in the growth, means cells of meristematic tissues take part in the growth of the plant. Clear? Because they are found in the tips, so they take part in the growth of the plant. They are responsible for the increase of the length. Clear? But here in the permanent tissue, they take part, as they are present in the different parts of the plant, then they take part in the photosynthesis, transportation, storage of material, etc. Okay, beside this, if we talk about the cells in meristematic tissues, then the cells are living here, but in the permanent tissues, cells may be living or dead. Okay, if we talk about the cell wall, then cell wall of the meristematic tissue is thin, but cell wall of the permanent tissue may be thin or thick. Next point is, generally meristematic tissues are simple tissues. They are simple tissues. But if we talk about the permanent tissue, then they may be simple, complex or spatial. Okay. Cell wall, if we talk about the cell wall, is generally thin. But in the permanent tissue, cell wall may be thin or thick. Cell wall may be thin or thick. Clear? Cells may be, here in the meristematic tissue, cells are living. Cells of meristematic tissue are living. Here in the permanent cell, cells of permanent tissue may be living or dead. Okay, so these are the spatial features, these are the difference between meristematic tissues and permanent tissues on the basis of their characteristics. Clear? As we have already studied about that, they are the isodiametric, small, and they are large and differentiated. Beside all those things, we can say that meristematic tissues are simple tissues. Beside it, permanent tissues may be simple tissue, they may be complex tissue, or they may be some spatial tissues. If we talk about cell wall, then cell wall in the cells of meristematic tissues are generally thin, but in the permanent tissue, the cell wall of the cell may be thin or thick. Cells of meristematic tissues are living, and there in the permanent tissue, cells may be living or dead. Clear? So these are the important characteristics on which we have differentiated the meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. Next is define the process of differentiation. Differentiation means the ability of the cell to lose the process of cell to lose the ability to divide, that is known as differentiation. Next is differentiation. What is differentiation? The process of loss of ability of the cell to divide and taking a permanent shape, size and perform a particular function. Okay. So here we go with the answer. Differentiation. What is differentiation? The process of loss of ability to divide. The process of loss of ability to divide and take a permanent shape, size to perform by a new cell to perform a particular function. Okay, so what is differentiation? Differentiation is the process to lose the ability to divide and take a permanent shape and size by the new cell to perform a particular function. Okay, means the cell cannot be divided further and it takes a particular shape and size to perform a particular function. Clear? So this is the meaning of differentiation. Next is name any two simple and two complex permanent tissues in plants. As we all know that plants have mainly two type of tissues, simple tissues and complex tissues. So if we talk about the simple tissues, then they are three types: parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. But if we talk about the complex permanent tissues in the plants, they are of two type only, xylem and phloem. So here we go with the answer, that is C. Simple permanent tissue, simple tissue or simple permanent tissue, they are of three type. Generally they are of three types, but here they are asking of two. You can write any two. I am here mentioning three types: parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Okay, and if we talk about complex permanent tissue, they are of two type. What are they? Xylem and Fluence. Okay, so these are the answers. If we talk about simple tissues, generally they are of three types: parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Here it is asking two types. You can write any two of them. Now complex permanent tissues, they are again of two types: xylem and phloem. Clear? So these are the answers of given questions. Next is, what will happen if apical meristem is damaged or cut? As we all know that apical meristem is responsible for the growth in the length of the plant part. So if the apical meristem will be damaged or cut, then it will stop the growth of the length. Clear? So here we go with the answer. A. So here we go with the answer, that apical meristem, as we all know, apical meristem is generally present in tips of stem or roots and helps to grow helps to grow their length. Okay, so if apical meristem will be damaged or cut, then definitely it will stop the length. Okay, so here we can mention if apical meristem is damaged or cut, it will stop the growth of length of the plant part. Like stem and root. As we all know, apical meristem is present on the tips of the stem and roots. If it will be cut or it get damaged by any reason, okay, then what will happen? Their length will stop growing. Clear? So we can say that the plant part like stem and roots where the apical meristem is present for the growth of the length, then it will be damaged, then the growth will stop there and they will not increase in the length. Clear? So this is the answer of this question. Next is cork is not formed in older stem and roots. If the cork is not formed in the older roots and stems, then the outer tissues will be ruptured, okay, due to the increase of growth, and then the interior material will be exposed to the infection. Clear? So here we go with the answer. Part B. If cork is not formed in older root or stem, the outer tissue will be ruptured or will rupture due to increase in girth and expose the interior. Means whatever the material is present inside the cell, then they will be exposed to the infection. Okay, expose the interior to infection, Clear? If cork is not formed in older stems or root, the outer tissues will rupture due to increase in girth and the interior will be exposed to the infection, because interior material will come in the direct contact with the environment and then it may cause the infection to the interior material. Clear? So these are the answers. Next is lymph is not returned to the blood. If the lymph is not returned to the blood, then blood volume will decrease and it will cause a retention in the fluid and it will lead to swelling. So here we go with the answer. If the lymph is not returned to the blood, then blood volume will decrease and there will be retention in fluid and it will lead to swelling. Okay. If the lymph is not returned to the blood, then blood volume will decrease and there will be retention in fluid. This will lead to swelling. Okay. Give reason. Meristematic cells have a prominent nucleus and dense cytoplasm, but they lack vacuole. As I told you that meristematic tissues and which have made by the meristematic cells, then the cells of meristematic tissues means meristematic cells do not divide, means do not divide further. This is the reason. Sorry, they undergo with the division. This is the reason that they do not have vacuole, because the function of vacuole is to store food, but meristematic cells undergoes division and they do not store food. This is the reason they do not have vacuole, even they have nucleus and dense cytoplasm. So here we go with the answer A, that meristematic cells have a prominent nucleus and dense cytoplasm, but they lack vacuole because meristematic cells undergoes division and do not store food. So they lack vacuole, because function of vacuole is to store food, but as the cells are dividing continuously, they do the process of division, so they do not store food. That's why they do not need vacuole. Clear? So this is the answer. Next is intercellular spaces are absent in the sclerenchymatous tissues because they have a lignin deposition between the cells. Okay, this is the reason they do not have intercellular spaces between the cells. So here we can mention that sclerenchymatous tissues, intercellular spaces are absent in sclerenchymatous tissues because of the lignin deposition. Intercellular spaces are absent in the sclerenchymatous tissues because of lignin deposition, or we can mention because they have lignin deposition. They have lignin deposition in the between the cells. Okay, because cells are closely packed because of the lignin deposition, so there is no intercellular space between the cells of sclerenchymatous tissues. Clear? So answer is lignin deposition is the main reason that lignin deposition is there between the cells, and this is the reason that they do not have intercellular spaces. Clear? Next is we get a crunchy and granular feeling when we chew pear fruit. So why? Because they have stone cells or sclerites. Thus we can mention we get crunchy and granular feeling when we eat or when we chew pear fruit because it has stone cells or sclerites. Okay. Next is branches of trees move and bend freely in high wind velocity because they have chlorenchyma in the branches of trees, and it provides flexibility to the branches to move or bend with the wind velocity. Clear? So here we go with the answer. What is the answer? Branches of tree moves and bend freely in high wind velocity because of presence of chlorenchyma. Chlorenchyma provides flexibility to branches to bend with wind. Okay, branches of trees move and bend freely in high wind velocity because of presence of chlorenchyma, because chlorenchyma provide them flexibility to bend with the velocity of wind. Clear? Next is, it is difficult to pull out the husk of coconut because the husk of coconut is made up of sclerenchyma. Okay, so as we all know that fibers of sclerenchyma are packed closely. This is the reason that it is hard, it is difficult to pull out the husk of coconut. Next is, it is difficult to pull out husk of coconut because it is made up of sclerenchyma. In sclerenchyma, fibers are closely packed, so it is hard to pull them out. So it is hard to pull them out. Clear? Because in sclerenchyma fibers are very closely packed, so it is very hard, it is very difficult to pull them out. This is the reason it is difficult to pull out the husk of coconut, because it is made up of sclerenchyma. Clear? So these are the answers of these questions. Animals of colder region and fishes of cold water have thicker layer of subcutaneous fat described, because as I told you that subcutaneous fat, okay, what helps in? It helps to prevent loss of heat from the body, or it work as a insulator. So here we go with the answer. A thicker layer subcutaneous layer of fat work as insulator. It does not allow the heat, it does not allow the loss of heat from the body in colder environment. Okay, it work as a reserve food material. It also work as reserve food material when due to the shortage of food, during the scarcity of food. Okay, once the food is not available to the animals in the colder region, that time this fat help them, or this fat work as the food reservoir in the cold environment. Clear? So here we can say that a thicker layer of subcutaneous layer of fat work as insulator. It does not allow the loss of heat from the body in the colder region. Even it work as a reserve food material during the scarcity of food. Clear? So this is the answer. Okay, now next is, why are xylem and phloem called complex tissues? How they are different from each other? Now let's discuss it. As we all know that xylem and phloem both work as a vascular bundle. Together they are known as vascular bundle. Even they are made up of different cells, but together they perform a particular function. And difference, if you talk about the difference between them, then they are made up of different types of cells. They perform different functions. Okay, one in the xylem, if we talk about the xylem is made up of different components. Phloem is made up of different components. Some components of xylem are dead and few are living, and here in the phloem same happens, some are living and some are dead. Function of xylem is to transport the organic material like water and minerals, and function of phloem is to transport the food material. Okay, so here we go with the differences of xylem and phloem. Okay, so here we go with the answer, that xylem and phloem both are made up of different cells, but they combine together to perform particular function. Here we go, that xylem and phloem are made up of different cells and they coordinate. Xylem and phloem, even they are made up of different cells, but of different cells which coordinate to perform particular function. in vascular plants, because they are vascular tissues, so definitely they are found in vascular plants. In vascular plants. Okay. So this is the answer of why are xylem and phloem called complex tissues. Xylem and phloem are made up of different cells. Even they are made up of different cells, still they coordinate to perform particular function in the vascular plants. This is the reason they are called complex tissues. Thus, they are called complex tissues because we know what are complex tissues. Complex tissues which are made up of different types of cells. So here xylem and phloem are made up of different types of cells, still they coordinate together and perform a particular function. This is the reason they are known as complex tissues. Now what are the differences between xylem and phloem? So here we go with the answer. Xylem and phloem. Okay. If we talk about the xylem, then they conduct water and inorganic materials in the plant. They conduct water and inorganic solutes in the plant. Means they help the conduction of water and inorganic solutes in the plant. Even if we talk about the phloem, that it conducts organic material in the plant. Okay, they are made up of components of xylem are tracheids, vessel, xylem fiber, and xylem parenchyma. Okay, and here the components of phloem are sieve tube, okay, companion cell, phloem fiber, phloem parenchyma, okay. Here if we talk about the xylem, then tracheids, vessels, and xylem fiber are dead cells, and only xylem parenchyma is living. Okay, and here sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem parenchyma, are living. only phloem fibers are dead. Okay, so what are the differences between xylem and phloem? That they conduct water and inorganic solutes in the plant. Okay, and here in the phloem it conducts organic material in the plant. Xylem components of xylem are tracheids, vessels, xylem fiber and xylem parenchyma. Even in the phloem, components are companion cells, seed tubes, phloem fiber and phloem parenchyma. In the xylem, most of components are dead, only the xylem parenchyma are living. But in the phloem, most of the components like seed tube, companion cells, phloem parenchyma, they are living, they work, and only phloems are dead. Phloem fibers are dead. Phloem fibers are dead. Okay. Here, conduction occurs only in the one direction. As we all know, we have studied xylem, functions of xylem, then functions of phloem, then we have studied that conduction of material in the xylem occurs only in the one direction, but in the phloem it occurs only in the both directions. Okay, so here conduction of material occurs in one direction, but in the phloem conduction of materials occur in both the direction. Conduction of material occur in both direction. Clear? As most of the components of xylem tissues are dead, that's why they provide mechanical strength, and in the phloem most of the components are living, only one is dead, so they do not provide any mechanical support. Here we go with the topic that they provide mechanical strength to the plant, and they do not provide mechanical strength to the plant. They do not provide mechanical strength. Clear? So these are the differences on the basis of their features, on the basis of features of xylem and phloem. So these are the differences between xylem and phloem. Clear? Hope you all have cleared with these answers. Hope you all got them in a very nice manner. So learn them. Thank you.